Welcome back to the deep dive. We're going to be exploring e-democracy.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, how technology is changing the way we engage in politics. And you sent in some fascinating material on the topic, and we're excited to break it down together.
It's a hot topic for sure. Getting a handle on both the promises and the potential problems of e-democracy, I think, is really crucial for anyone who wants to be, an informed citizen in the digital age.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay, so this document jumps right into the concept of e-democracy. What exactly does that even mean? Is it just online voting, or is there more to it?
Oh, it's so much more than just online voting. Think of e-democracy as using technology to give citizens a bigger, more active role in politics.
Yeah.
We're talking increased transparency, ongoing participation, even shaping legislation directly.
Okay, hold on. Shaping legislation directly. What does that even look like in practice?
Imagine online platforms where you can see the laws being proposed, budgets, how budgets are being spent, even comment on proposals and stuff in real time. That's what some people call e-law platforms, and that's e-democracy in action. It brings all the inner workings of government right to your fingertips.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's way beyond just voting every few years. I can see how that would make people feel more connected to the political process.
Hmm.
But, I mean, does everyone even have access to this kind of technology?
That's one of the big challenges, actually, and the document brings this up. Not everyone has equal access to the internet or even, the digital skills to navigate these platforms. This is what people call the digital divide.
The digital divide makes sense.
Yeah.
If we're not careful, this could actually make inequality worse instead of making things more democratic.
Exactly. If we want e-democracy to work for everyone, we have to close that digital divide. We need to make sure everyone has access to these tools and that they have the skills to use them effectively.
Yeah, that makes sense. The document also highlights the potential for online voting, which on the surface sounds incredibly convenient. But I can also see some issues with that. What about security, like hacking and things like that?
You hit the nail on the head. Security is paramount with any online voting system. I think we need to be talking about systems that are virtually unbreakable, with multiple layers of security and complete transparency so people can trust the results.
Yeah, if you don't have trust, the whole system falls apart. Speaking of online engagement, though, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Social media, I mean, on the one hand, it gives everyone a platform to voice their opinions, which is great. But then there's also the whole issue of misinformation spreading like wildfire.
It's such a double-edged sword, isn't it? Social media can be such a powerful tool for engagement, but it also makes it really easy for misinformation and manipulation to thrive. We have to be incredibly careful and discerning about the information that we consume online.
Absolutely. So what are some things that people can do to make sure they're not being misled?
The key is to be a critical consumer of information. Don't just take everything you see at face value. Ask yourself, who is behind this information? What's their agenda? What are they trying to achieve? Developing those critical thinking skills is really essential in the digital age.
It's like being a detective almost.
Yeah.
This document also touches on some pretty futuristic stuff, like how AI and blockchain could shape the future of e-democracy. I can barely wrap my head around that.
The potential is really immense, but it's important to use these technologies responsibly. AI could be used to analyze massive amounts of data from citizens to help craft better policies, and blockchain could be used to create voting systems that are ultra secure. But we need to have open conversations about how to balance these benefits with protecting people's privacy and their rights.
It's a lot to consider. We've covered a lot of ground already, from e-law platforms to the digital divide. There's so much to unpack when it comes to e-democracy. But where do we even begin to address these really complex issues?
Well, a good starting point is to consider this. How do you envision the ideal relationship between citizens and their government? What role do you think technology should play in shaping that relationship? These are questions we should all be asking ourselves as we navigate this evolving landscape.
I love that.
Yeah,
It all comes back to those core questions. It's about more than just the tech. It's about our vision for the future.
exactly.
Awesome. Well, on that note, let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back to dive even deeper into this fascinating world of e-democracy. Stay with us. It's interesting to think about how e-democracy could shift the power dynamic between citizens and governments.
Absolutely. For centuries, democracy has mostly been about showing up to vote every few years and hoping for the best.
Yeah, you cast your vote, and then you're just kind of along for the ride.
Exactly. But e-democracy has the potential to make the conversation between citizens and government a continuous one.
So it's kind of like taking that old town hall meeting concept and bringing it online where everyone can participate.
That's a great analogy. Suddenly, everyone has a microphone and a platform to share their ideas and hold their leaders accountable.
I like that. The document uses this term continuous engagement, and I think that really captures the essence of what e-democracy is all about.
I agree. It's about giving people the tools and the platforms to be actively involved in shaping the policies that affect their lives.
But, let's be realistic. Not everyone wants to be super politically active all the time, right?
That's a really good point. E-democracy is not about forcing everyone to become a political junkie.
Right. So how do we design a system that works for everyone? For people who want to just check in occasionally and for those who want to be deeply involved in specific issues.
Well, the beauty of e-democracy is that it can accommodate different levels of engagement.
So someone could choose to just kind of dip their toes in the water, or they could like dive headfirst into the issues that they care most about.
Precisely. It's about creating a system that's flexible enough to meet people where they are and allow them to participate in a way that feels comfortable and meaningful to them.
I like that. This document also brought up something that I hadn't really considered before, which is the potential for e-democracy to bridge the gap between citizens and experts.
That's a really fascinating aspect. Traditionally, policymaking has been, dominated by politicians and academics.
Right. It's like this exclusive club that most people don't have access to.
Exactly. But with e-democracy, you can open up that process and tap into the collective intelligence of the entire nation.
So instead of just relying on a small group of experts, you can get input from everyday people who have firsthand experience with the issues.
Exactly. Think about all the knowledge and expertise that's out there just waiting to be tapped into.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of the ancient Greek concept of the agora.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, it was a public space where citizens would gather to discuss politics and debate the issues of the day.
hmm
And in a sense, e-democracy is kind of like a modern-day agora, using technology to create a virtual space for public discourse and civic engagement.
It's a brilliant comparison, I think. It's about recreating that sense of community and shared purpose that's often missing in our digital world.
And it highlights the fact that, democracy isn't just a system of government, it's
Yeah.
a way of life. It's a commitment to active participation,
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that we all have a role to play in shaping the future of our societies.
for sure. But if we're going to empower people to participate in this new digital landscape, we need to make sure that they have the skills and knowledge to do it effectively.
Absolutely. That's where education and digital literacy come in.
We need to help people develop the critical thinking skills to navigate the online world, evaluate information, and engage in constructive dialogue.
It's not just about knowing how to use the technology, it's about understanding how to use it responsibly and ethically.
Right. The document actually mentions some interesting examples of how different countries are implementing these e-democracy initiatives.
Yeah, there's so much we can learn from real-world case studies.
Some countries are experimenting with online voting, while others are focusing on creating platforms for citizen feedback.
It's a fascinating process of trial and error as different countries figure out what works best in their own context.
Yeah, and it seems like the key takeaway here is that, e-democracy is a constantly evolving field.
Yeah.
We need to stay informed and engaged.
Absolutely. It's an ongoing journey, and we all have a role to play in shaping its future.
For sure. This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about. What are some of the key takeaways that have resonated with you? What aspects of e-democracy excite you? What concerns do you have?
Hmm, that's a good question. Let me think for a second.
As we've been talking about e-democracy, I think one thing has become really clear. It's not just about the technology.
Right, the technology is a tool.
It's a tool, yeah.
The human element is what matters.
Yeah. If e-democracy is going to be successful, it requires all of us to take ownership.
Exactly. We're all responsible for shaping this new digital landscape.
It's not enough for governments to just put the tech in place.
It's about the citizens being active and participating, engaging in, critical thinking and constructive dialogue.
Yeah, it's like we're all pioneers venturing into this uncharted territory.
Totally. We're figuring it out as we go.
Yeah, figuring out how to navigate this new world together.
And just like the pioneers of old, we need to be aware of the risks.
Yeah, we've already talked about the digital divide and the misinformation problem.
Right, and we need to be careful about protecting our privacy and making sure things are fair and equitable.
This document brings up an interesting question about, the role of government. Where do we draw the line between government support and government overreach?
That's a tough one. On the one hand, governments have a responsibility to create an environment where e-democracy can flourish.
So investing in infrastructure, promoting digital literacy, making sure everyone has access.
Exactly. But at the same time, we don't want to give governments too much control over these technologies.
because it could be used to manipulate people or stifle dissent.
Yeah, transparency and accountability and protecting individual rights, those all have to be top priorities.
And I'm also curious about how e-democracy will evolve as technology continues to advance. I mean, we're seeing crazy developments with AI, blockchain, and virtual reality.
The possibilities are really endless. Just imagine AI helping us analyze all this data to identify the most pressing issues and, craft better policies.
Or using blockchain to create a completely secure and transparent voting system.
What about virtual reality? Could we have virtual town hall meetings or visit our representatives in virtual offices?
That's kind of blowing my mind a little bit, all these possibilities.
It really makes you think about how much things could
It's not
change.
just about the tools, it's about reimagining what democracy can be in the digital age.
Exactly.
This has been a really thought-provoking conversation. It seems like e-democracy has huge potential to transform our societies.
It does, but it also requires us to be thoughtful and ethical in how we approach it.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm feeling a mix of optimism and caution.
It's an exciting time to be alive, but we need to be aware of the challenges and work together to make sure that technology makes the world a better place for everyone.
I think that's a perfect note to end on. We hope this deep dive has given you some new insights and made you curious to learn more.
Yeah, remember the conversation doesn't end here. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing for a better future.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We'll see you next time.